Hello there, a very warm welcome to South Korea. We've moved a little way along the coast from Hyundai last weekend to the long-established triathlon city of Tongyeong. But once again, it's top-class World Cup sprint action to enjoy. We'll have the elite men's race live in just a few minutes' time. And many of the men that you'll have watched last weekend are taking the opportunity to race again, although the first two across the line, Anthony Poujade of France and the Japanese Takumi Hojo, aren't in the field. Some interesting additions, though, including the ultra-experienced Hungarian Gabor Faldon. So sit back and enjoy it with us. My name's Trevor Harris. Alongside me, double world champion Helen Jenkins. You'd think, Helen, that after winning a bronze last weekend, the Italian Nicola Azzano might never have a better chance of winning a gold this time.
Yeah, I think he's got to be looking to move up the podium even further. It's really hard to call, though, that this field is going to be packed really tight, and we've got so many of the athletes who had really solid top 10 finishes last weekend and are looking to build on that.
Yeah, well, we said it was a tough race to call in Hyundai, and neither of us, I don't think, looked at Anthony Poujade. And looking down here again, as you say, it's tough. I mean, Azzano has shown us that he's in form. He's obviously been here for a week, so he's got no travel issues, no jet lag. I think there's a few in here that might have, some points to prove from last weekend.
Yeah, I think a few of the men maybe didn't perform as well as they'd hoped, and I think if you've had the travel, sometimes you just don't seem to get that result out. But if they've had, another week here, time to acclimatise, kind of get a little bit more rested, maybe make up for last weekend's performance. And this is a tougher course today. We've got a couple of hills on the bike course, so that might suit a few of the athletes.
Well, talking of the course, here it is, 750 metres in the water, and then out onto the bike course, and you can see from our little elevation graph those two big hills, gradients between 13 and 15%. 3 laps make up the 20-kilometre distance. Then we go out onto the run. It's 2.5 Ks, 2 laps, so 5K total. There's a 200-metre hill on there as well. The finish is located at Triathlon Square, which is pretty apt.
Yeah, really challenging course, and last week we saw in the swim, I think having that beach start and the choppy water, the running, it did really separate the men. So a few of the athletes missed out, that they just didn't make the swim, but they've got maybe a bit more of an opportunity today, just with a calmer swim and a pontoon start.
11 Koreans on the start list, incidentally, which is a bit deeper than the women in terms of numbers. There are 48 of them taking their chance today.
Yeah, a lot of young athletes in the Korean field as well, so really lovely for them to get a good opportunity to get a taste of this World Cup level racing.
I mentioned Gabor Faldon, he's kind of the experience. We've got also the likes of Rodrigo Gonzalez of Mexico. And there are 5 Mexicans in the field, actually.
Yeah, Gabor Faldon, 134 starts.
Yeah.
That's a lot of experience. And we've got some athletes in here, this is their second. So that's the difference in the experience level, isn't it? First or second race. So, yeah, it's a real mix. So we could see like a lot of, some big time gaps, I think, with just that difference in experience and a challenging course.
Faldon's first professional race was 17 years ago, 2004.
Wow.
Yeah. Been around a while.
Yeah. They've got the Aussies in there. Had some good races last weekend. Luke Bate got 6th, and Luke Bate had a really strong run, and then Max Stapley got 6th. So, some of those athletes ran really well further back in the field. If they managed to get into the front pack this week, then we'll have a lot of contenders on the run.
You can see the majority of the men already lined up. We're about 2.5 minutes away from the start. It is dead calm out there, as you can see, which is something a bit different to what we saw in Hyundai a week ago.
In the women's race earlier, looking at the race on the pontoon now, we saw the right hand where Beth Potter went, going out super fast and getting away, but the men have all seemed to have gone to the opposite end. The top athletes have all gone to the left. So not taking the advice of the women earlier. I would think it's a pretty even pontoon start, this one, though.
Felix Duchamp, who's wearing number 1, it's like he's bang in the middle of the... No, he's not. Sorry, just on the left-hand side, isn't he, next to Junpei Furuya of Japan.
Furuya had a good race last weekend, finishing 5th, but really strong all-round performance. He was one of the top athletes out the swim, really contributed a lot to the bike effort as well. He's got to be looking to move up today with a couple of those guys off the podium, not here. And I think using that bike strength he showed last weekend.
Felix Duchamp of Romania is wearing number 1 here. He was in Tokyo a few months back at the Olympics. It's actually only his 3rd event since then. Stand by. So where we go, 48 men. This is their last World Cup event of the year. So they want to go out with a bang. And as we've been saying, it looks a really difficult race to call. Try and find let alone a podium, just a winner is tough.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to call. And we had some of the athletes who had really strong performances last weekend to get to the top 10, and then athletes who weren't so happy. So, yeah, again, I'm not sure. It's amazing how quick it kind of, breaks up, isn't it, on the swim? Some of the athletes we saw right on the end, and I think it was Furuya had a really good dive and got some clear water straight away. So that even that dive is so important. Just if you can nail that and get even half a body length on the athlete next to you, it's such an advantage.
We've got about 6 or 7 different little arrowheads here as they complete the first minutes in the water.
Yeah, and we saw in the women's, it broke apart very quickly, but I think in this we might see here that there is a bit more congestion around the boys as they all kind of hit it at a similar time.
Yeah, we had the 2 standout swimmers in the women's race that managed to get themselves a big lead. Checking on the start, it didn't look as though anyone went early.
No, Crociani from Italy, number 15's in the field, and he's swam really well in all the kind of the races he's done recently. So I think we'd expect to see him kind of near the front. I think 19 that is leading, Stately from Australia. So yeah, he had a strong race, 6th last weekend. So he's only been representing Australia since the beginning of the year. But it's obviously suiting him with his result last weekend.
See, already some of those little arrowheads have converged as Stapley goes on his merry way at the front. It is only 750 metres, so it's only going to take him just over 8 minutes, 8:20, something like that.
Yeah, in a wetsuit swim today, so going to be, that always increases the speed of the swim slightly. Also helps kind of the weaker swimmers who kind of seem to just get that little bit of an advantage, able to kind of keep themselves closer to the front. We see at this level of racing, which is kind of underneath the World Championship Series, the standard isn't quite as high, so we do see kind of bigger gaps or athletes able to kind of make a breakaway earlier on in the swims.
Just to give you the conditions, the air temperature around about 16 degrees centigrade, which is 60 odd Fahrenheit, and the water is 19.4 centigrade. I think it might be a little bit warmer by the time they get to Abu Dhabi, or those that are going to Abu Dhabi in a week's time. Just to, while we watch this swim, just to mark your card, it's a very, very busy weekend, and next weekend we're bringing you a myriad of action including the Junior World Championships. This will be off the back of the World Triathlon Championship Series race in Abu Dhabi. We're actually going to bring you some coverage of the Para Championships as well, the World Triathlon Para Championships. That's early morning start in Europe, that'll be. That'll be followed by the World Triathlon Championship Series Abu Dhabi. And then on the Saturday, we've got the Junior Championships, World Triathlon Juniors at Quarteira in Portugal. And we'll also be bringing you the Europe Triathlon Cup from Quarteira. So we'll have the juniors and then the elites to follow. I can't remember if it's the women on Saturday, the men on Sunday, but either way, we'll show you every race.
Yeah, the busy weekend of racing next weekend.
Then we can have a rest till next year.
Yeah. I think a lot of these guys are this, it's the last World Cup of the year, so a lot of these athletes, this is going to be the final race now, so it's kind of almost like get this race done and then it's that winding down, isn't it, having a bit of a break for the end of the year. So it's definitely stringing out a little bit, but it didn't look too bad around the boys. I mean, it wasn't too congested. Just saw someone swimming off the wrong way then. I've gone back, thankfully. Yeah, we see they've stretched out quite a lot, but it's no significant gaps yet.
We had a group of about 10 on the bike, didn't we, in Hyundai in the men's race?
Yeah, there was a definite break. They worked really hard and managed to kind of keep that break over the chasers. They got organised very quickly, which I think was key. There was a few people kind of almost, marshalling the troops, getting them organised, getting everyone working hard together, and that they managed to break. So I think that's key today. If there's a small gap and they can get organised, then they've definitely got a chance of getting away, but they might need a bigger gap than they have at the moment.
Yeah, intriguing to see exactly how many bikers we have in the lead group, because they're only going to be in the water for another 2 minutes and a half, maybe 2:30.
See Kociani just moving up now to overtake in the last kind of couple of 100 metres of the swim. There is a small gap there. There's probably about 10 athletes, then a small gap forming. Now these two are swimming super close together, so it kind of does tend to slow each other down a little bit at this point. But there is that fight almost to be the first one out the water sometimes.
Kociani had a decent swim last weekend, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He's led a lot of the swims he's done recently. And came fourth last weekend, so it was a really strong result because he's a young athlete. Yeah, 20 years old, so showing some real promise. And so, like I say, having a good swim is always such an advantage when you kind of do step up to that next level of racing. If you can swim well and put yourself in the front group, that's, it just takes time for your run to kind of catch up. This is a really strong performance again on the swim. I'd like to maybe move that fourth up and get onto the podium today.
Yeah, it's always a massive moment in any triathlete's career when they get their first podium under the belt.
You can see the athletes even further back still kind of sighting as they're going along, so it's still worth kind of checking that you're on course, that you're heading. I mean, it's very easy to look for sight here at the finish. They've got a big arch just from underneath, so that no one should really be going off course.
Shouldn't be a problem, should it?
Shouldn't be, no. Big yellow boy with a number on and an arch. He should be fine.
So it's going to be pretty much as we thought, around about 8 1/4, 8:15-ish out the water.
Yeah, and there is a gap. There's that small group and a gap. They might want to repeat what they did last weekend.
Yeah, there's maybe 7 or 8 of them had a little jump on the rest of the field there.
There's about 8, and they've only got a 6-second gap at the moment.
Okay.
So, yeah, very close. But we did see last week that if they get organised quickly, Azzano's up there as well. Another one of the strong Italians.
And Stapley. Salzilla just coming in.
I think the advantage is a lot of the men here were in the breakaway last weekend, so they kind of know what they have to do. If they can work together as they did last week, they do know that's a really good strategy.
Azzano, a decent swim. Statev, who was second in the national championships in Italy earlier this year. He's a very strong biker. So if he can get into that lead group, and he wasn't very far behind, that might make a difference.
Got Furuya from Japan again in there. Again, he made the break last week, and I think he rode really well. We saw him on the front a lot. It's the last athletes coming out here.
Looks like we've got about half a dozen at the front initially. Probably not that far clear of anybody else, but it's only 10 minutes into the race.
Hay from France is in there. Gem from France. Was that I think that might be the chasers there. Yeah, it's the chasers. And we saw Stapley taking charge there, and I think that's what we saw last week as well. When you need someone to take charge, get them all moving. 6 of them there, isn't there?
Yeah, and they were about, I don't know, maybe about 10 seconds clear. Well, you couldn't ask to hear more clearly what's going on there.
Yeah, the Swiss athlete's in there as well. Didn't catch his number then.
So Crociani and Stapley in that leading group. There is Nicola Azzano. Is he just off the pace? I think he might be.
Yes, and there is a Swiss athlete in there as well. I wasn't sure who it was. It was Holwenger or... Yeah, I'm not sure which one of them's made it. But they do seem to be kind of getting that through and off working, where one athlete comes through, does a few seconds, pulls straight over, the next one comes through. So that's really efficient if they all work together and keep doing. But they're a relatively small group, so they should be able to keep that going.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the perfect number, really, if you want to try and get away.
No, both Swiss athletes are in there.
So that's Fabien Musen of Switzerland.
Duval from France too. Oh, so Duval from France came 7th last weekend, so he had a really strong result last weekend as well. He's not got many starts, only 13 starts, so not a massively experienced athlete.
Let's go, we got this. Come on, let's just roll smooth.
I love the motivation there.
Yeah.
He's really trying to get the group going.
He's kind of like team captain, isn't he?
Yeah, the general. Every group needs a good general.
So up the one of the 2 hills.
Yes.
Martin Sobey of Canada.
Oh, the chase group looks pretty close from this angle, doesn't it?
It looks very close. I think it looks close from any angle.
Yeah. We'll see at this point whether the leaders are motivated and keep going, or just kind of almost let the chasers get on. It's Yeah, I think they're on, aren't they, around this dead turn? It's very close. French athlete on the front doing some big turns there to pull them back on.
I reckon that's a group of about 16. And they've caught on the first lap.
Stapley's not willing to just let them come back as he's trying to keep working. I think that group's kind of stopped working now, haven't they?
I think they know the writing's pretty much on the wall.
Doherty from Ireland leading that group round.
Looks like we've probably got about, it looks like there's about 4 of them kind of in no man's land between those 2 bigger chasing groups.
Yeah, and these groups are together now, aren't they? But like I say, on this kind of course, we've got a couple of hills. There's definitely opportunity for a lot of athletes to keep working hard, have some attacks, you know, really break up the groups and not give anyone an easy ride. You know, when it's a flat course, it's very easy for some athletes to sit in and really not expend too much effort. But on a hilly course like this, you can make the other athletes hurt.
It's one of the Koreans, obviously the local camera crew, focusing on some of their home triathletes, 11 of them, in fact, on the start list. So it's about 25% of the field. There's one of them. Jae-yoon Jo.
Yeah, not that experienced. So he's only had 9 starts. So yeah, this will be, I think, a couple of World Cups. These must be chasing on to the first group.
Well, that's a tough ask because I think they're kind of marooned a little bit.
Yeah, this group is pretty big now.
It's about nearly 20, I think, in that leading group.
Let's go, keep rolling. 2 runners behind, come on.
It's Duval of France, and number 31 is Moussen of Switzerland.
Yeah, it's really hard now because some of the athletes are going to be working and some are just going to kind of be sat there, especially with kind of the rolling nature of the course. So it's going to be really hard for them as of a group of this size to all be having kind of a turn. Maybe some of the stronger athletes are better waiting and trying to form a bit of a breakaway group.
Well, it still could happen.
I think both Australians are in there now. Beta's in that group too.
Bates from Perth in Western Australia. It's actually only his 2nd race outside Oz for more than 2 years. Of course, there have been all kinds of travel problems in terms of restrictions going to and from Australia.
Yeah, it's a bit, you can see the pace is kind of slow just because the group is really wide. I mean, they're coming around the turn, so it's a bit of a slowing too. But there's just not going to be as much pressure on the front now.
So that 180 is basically the precursor for them to come into transition to complete the lap.
And they're getting a look at the group behind as well. So they do, you know...
It's a handy lead.
Yeah, they don't want to sit up there. There's still some good runners kind of in this second group here on the road. So you don't want to, you know, let them get too close. They can't afford to sit up in that front group and just cruise. I think we saw it last week in the men's too. I think some of the faster runs came from kind of that second or third pack that were kind of quite a way back. So they didn't have an impact on the podium. But if the front group doesn't kind of work now, then they're going to let those athletes back into the race, the ones that maybe have missed the swim.
I think they've got about half a minute, I reckon.
Yeah, half a minute's a good lead, isn't it? Because you think it's only 5K runs, so you know half a minute is a lot for any of these athletes to make up. But if the front group does sit up at some point and all start looking at each other, it does give these athletes an opportunity to get back in. There's Grail from France there, so he had the fastest run last week in Hyundai. So he finished quite far down, but has obviously got that run speed there. So some of these athletes in this group will probably get caught, even if it's a 30-second gap. Not maybe the top ones, but some of them will.
Stapley's never been more than about a metre from the front of that bike group, has he? When they were 6, he was at the front. Now they're more than 20, he's at the front. Yeah,
he's really motivated, isn't he, to try and kind of keep this group working. And I think when you've been in the front group, in a small group, you've got that mentality. You're like, come on, let's work, and then you get caught, and it's really hard sometimes to switch from that push mentality to change your tactics to where should I sit in this group? I need to expend some effort, but not too much. So it's, you're almost changing your tactics after like 5K of the bike.
There goes Luke Bate.
Oh.
It must be such a relief for the Aussies and for the Australian women in the women's race that we saw earlier, just to be able to compete internationally again.
Yeah, I think it must have been hard last year, especially, when we saw the World Championships kind of happen in Hamburg at the end of 2020, and a lot of the athletes weren't actually physically able to get there at that point. So it is great that they're able to kind of be back racing and, competitive. I think it's going to take a little while. Some of the athletes have jumped straight back into international competition, but it does seem like some of the athletes are just taking a little bit longer just to kind of, get used to the rhythm of the other competitors again. And this is the kind of bike course that, no one's going to find particularly easy. There's some really steep hills in there. We've got 13%, 15% hills. So, everyone's going to have to work. No one's going to be getting onto the run with completely fresh legs.
So Duval at the front, keeping them honest.
Yeah, and if you're feeling strong, it's a really good opportunity just to kind of put the pressure on the athletes at the back who aren't doing so well.
Is that Gabor Faldon?
Saw Toth from Hungary
maybe it's
at
Thomas
the back.
Yeah. Well, there was someone near the front of that group.
I'm not sure where Faldon is.
That's Arthur Berlon of France.
Yeah, Faldon's number 8, isn't he? So I'm trying to see if he's in that front group.
It's just a little move from Berlon. It might be. I think he was kind of hoping someone might go with him. A couple maybe try and catch on, but it looks destined to fail if it was an attempted break. Actually covered fairly easily in the end.
Yeah, it looks like it's been closed down pretty quick.
But you can't knock a guy for trying.
No, and the nature of the surges and people having to respond to the surges, then easing and the jumping again, makes the bike just more challenging. They can see the chase group there as well, so that's probably a motivation.
Should be, shouldn't it? Stay away from them.
We've still got a gap. We're just a long line of athletes kind of chasing down. And ideally, you want it's easier said than done, but that really big kind of jump and effort to jump across and to try and then keep going. But, that not every athlete has the physiology for that. We all have our strengths and weaknesses in our physiology, and some are able to produce that massive big power, jump across or initiate the break. I think we're seeing that more and more with the nature of the racing, having the mixed team relay, that shorter distance, more sprint races. We are seeing like a lot more of that kind of powerful, like short burst of effort on the bike especially.
Sobey of Canada at the back of that group. It's great to see, talking of Canada, Tyler Mislorchuk back in the field for Abu Dhabi next weekend. He's had a few issues with injury, obviously, and before that there was some travel problems, Canadians trying to get to events.
Yeah, and it's always heartbreaking for any athlete kind of go into the Olympic Games with an injury and trying to manage it. It's really tough. So it's great to see, you know, athletes back racing after, you know, having to deal with things like that. Strings out a lot kind of on these descents, and those athletes have to work hard to, at the back, have to get near the front again.
Yeah, well, that's where you really don't want to be.
Yeah, these are the athletes towards the back, aren't they? Just, I mean, today there's 3 laps on the bike course, so
yes,
very unlikely they're going to be lapped. So it's just keeping yourself in the race and trying to produce something, you know, trying to produce a good run as well. Someone going on the attack.
Yeah, Duval and Statev just watched a rider breeze past. I'm not quite sure who that was.
That's what we just said about being able to produce that big burst of power and to initiate the breakaway.
Kendall of Austria it was. There's Tamás Tor of Hungary.
Yeah, we're all back together. This might be the way for their last lap. Just a little bit of yeah, people kind of attacking and then coming back into the pack, attacking, coming back. Everyone's just going to try and have a go to get away. One of them might succeed. Just give themselves that extra little gap coming into transition.
Well, there's a 4 or 5 second lead here.
Yeah, that's the best gap we've seen so far. He might need company to do it all on his own. It's one of the Japanese, I think. I didn't see the number.
Well, I guess it partly depends on how, you know, how focused you are, because there's probably what, 8, maybe 8 or 9 Ks left, so not fancy doing that solo.
Yeah, ideally, if we could have another 1 or 2 athletes for company, and it's quite often the case that maybe like the 3rd or 4th attack will kind of succeed. So if you can have someone that could jump across to kind of to help him, but he's got, you know, a decent little gap. 7 or 8 seconds. Six. Not that many. Not that many. Probably not enough.
Is that Ren Sato's?
Yeah, it's Ren Sato.
Didn't have a particularly good day in Hyundai, finishing 23rd.
Oh.
His only career win, actually, Sato, was an Asian Cup sprint event a couple of years ago. And his best World Cup, a pretty modest 17th at Malulaba last year. So maybe he's going to produce a World Cup personal best today. And he's experienced enough now. He's 26. It's not like he's a kid.
Yeah, he's got a bit of experience there. I think when we did see the front group, there did seem to be someone trying to jump across to him. The chase group have gone a little bit further behind again. think. Yeah, about 30 seconds. So that's, yeah, we know with 30 seconds over the 5K, they might run a few of the athletes down, but it's extremely hard to get to the podium from that position.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good lead. Now they're out on their final lap. So only, less than 6 kilometres to go now before they go out on the run. We're 29 minutes in. So more than halfway through the final Men's World Cup race of the season. And up front, Rensato making a bold bid, saying he wasn't prepared just to ride round in a group of 20-odd. And he may yet get reeled in, although he's done well. Looks like he might have just extended it a bit.
Yeah, he's done well. I mean, riding the hills, it doesn't matter so much whether you're in a group or on your own. It's just the descents, you might kind of lose a little bit of time. And obviously if a few of these athletes kind of get a little bit organised and decide to pull him in, but it's whether they think they need to. A lot of them, 6-7 seconds, they're like, yeah, I can probably run that back. It's not a huge gap yet. And a lot of the athletes in that group, they're on the last nap now. Their minds are switching to the run, and they're kind of thinking about their next move, trying to get in the good position, ready for kind of transition, and there'll just be that slight sort of shift in mindset.
Just trying to have a look what kind of a time Rensato put up last week.
Yeah, I guess overall time's going to be a bit slower today. That the bike course is obviously a lot more challenging, and even the run, we say 200-meter hill doesn't sound too bad, but we saw in the women's that second time round that hill looks like it is a bit of a drag. So,
well, just in relation to, for example, Poujade ran 15:02, Sato ran 15:38, so he was just over half a minute slower than the winner. But certainly a competent enough runner.
Yeah.
Really snazzy shoes, those, aren't they? I'm sure about the colour. Doesn't really coordinate, but he's out front. And he's shown a bit of daring do here, although, as you can see from that shot, it's not a significant gap.
No, not significant.
I think they're reeling him in.
Yeah. Never sure whether it's going to be worth his effort here. He probably needed a bit of company to get that, have that good advantage, and he's going to have a look now whether it's going to be worth him putting the effort in for the last half of this lap, really. Yeah,
because there'll be some part of him, devil's on one shoulder saying, you know what, we've only got probably about 4.5 kilometres on the bike and need to save my legs to some degree. Otherwise, if I burn myself out, these guys just sprint right past me.
Yeah, but he's already put the work in, hasn't he? So he may as well keep going, I guess, at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I think maybe once you've made that commitment, you may as well just kind of go for it. Chase pack seems to be hovering around that similar distance, don't they?
Are they still about 30 seconds?
I think still about 30 seconds, yeah. The gap looked very similar for the TED turn there. Let's see if we got timing for the turn point as well.
26th in the grand final, Sato. So he's not out of place at the top level of the sport. He's competitive.
Yeah, so the gap's just over 30 seconds. They're at 32, 33 seconds now. I say, and there's some fast runners in that second group, so we might see a few of the athletes get run down from this group, but definitely not all of them. Unfortunately, I think his gap might just go just before transition, which is always disappointing.
You almost feel cheated, don't you? That's the case.
It'd be nice if he managed to get that clear run into transition, which is always a bit nicer than in the middle of a group. So the athletes at the back having to work hard here to stay on this line. Yeah, he's got probably about 2 or 3 second gap now.
Well, it was good while it lasted, I guess. Is the point there.
A nice bit of TV time for all his sponsors and coverage and friends and family at home as well. So at least they got to see him in the race. But unfortunately, yeah, his time at the front is over. It's one of the Mexicans just coming straight to the front. See, they're still a way off transition, but that thought is there already. Everyone's kind of, you know, even just undoing the shoes, not taking them off yet, but just doing that one step, just so everything's a little bit less to do over that last kind of few hundred meters of the bike.
Someone getting very busy sneaking up the inside there.
Yeah. Oh, that's where you can just feel kind of edgy riding. I mean, if you know, someone just kind of coming up the inside of you so fast, it's that. Yeah, it's got to be so aware of what's happening around you to avoid any crashes at kind of, especially at this later stage of the bike.
Tamas Tor out the front, but there's no gap anywhere now, really. I'd be just a tad congested in transition.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, sometimes we see huge groups, don't we, of like pretty much all the field, but yeah, even at this point, there's still enough athletes in there. It's still obviously better to be closer to the front and have that smooth, quick transition. You don't really want to give away sort of 5 seconds at the start of the run, unless you're extremely confident in your run ability. See Bates just at the back there.
Yeah, he had a few turns at the front early in the bike, so I don't think we can accuse Luke Bates of sitting at the back and not doing any work.
No, it's just if you've done that work, it's a shame to actually enter transition almost last.
Yeah.
Then.
So the leaders are all off their bikes. Gonzalez.
Yeah, he ran well last weekend in Hyundai. A really strong run.
Second fastest, I think it was.
And he's got a really good list of results. He's won World Cups before. He's got a podium in Chengdu World Cup. So, he had 5th as well in 2018 in WTCS Bermuda. So, a very experienced athlete there.
Well, he's won 3 World Cups.
Yeah.
Telco, Sarasota, and Chengdu.
Yeah, with 22nd last weekend, he's got to be, he's in a lot better position to get himself onto the podium today, isn't he?
Well, that's a good 30 seconds. I think they lost some ground on that last lap, Maybe those little breakaways just increased the pace of the leading group. So, Bates, I don't know why he wants to run outside the cones, but anyhow.
Yeah, it's about 45 seconds now, that gap. So they lost a bit of time. All that chasing down the breakaway, I think, must have increased the speed of the front athletes.
Yeah, so they lost quite a bit of time on that final lap, didn't they, on the bike, that chase group?
That's a large group starting the run together, and it's quite nice they have the hill in the course. It will really sort of break them up a little bit there. Some athletes really enjoy running up hills, and even running downhill. Some athletes are great at running downhill, can really kind of use that skill to their advantage.
Well, it's definitely a skill downhill.
Doherty from Ireland is just taking the lead of that chase back. So he's won European points races before, a really strong runner. Someone's gone off in the front group. From Morocco, sorry. I think it's only his second World Cup, so I can't remember his name.
Jawad Abdelmoula, is it?
Yes. So having a great first kilometre. Yeah, he's only had 4 starts. So yeah, 24th last weekend, but that was his first World Cup. So yeah, really taking on the run. He's got a massive lead this early on.
Well, I don't think we saw this coming, so
No.
a bit of a surprise front runner here in the Moroccan. They have produced some very, very good runners for that part of the world.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a really good start. It'll be impressive if he can keep this up for the whole 5K. But even to put it that much time over a short distance, even if he can't hold it, I mean, that's a sign that he's got huge potential to run fast in the future.
Hanging out at the back of that little group.
Yeah, he did run okay last weekend as well. You know, one of the top 10 fastest runs, but it's funny when someone goes out this hard, it can really affect a lot of the other runners because they kind of tend to try and go with the pace or chase down the gap too quickly, and it can actually affect their race. So it's really important to kind of, I guess, know your limits and know how hard you can take it out, what yours, you know. So yeah, it's a really tough one because it's always easier to kind of go with the front group and hang on for as long as you can. I found anyway, rather than kind of build back towards them. But everyone kind of runs their race differently.
He ran 15:21 for 5K at the Tashkent Asia Cup earlier this year. In fact, just a few weeks ago. So we know he's quick. Question is, as you asked a few moments ago, can he sustain this here?
Aussie coming up, maybe. Yeah, Bates. He's going after him. Roya from Japan. Kociani's there too. So we've seen a lot of the men up there that we did see last weekend.
And Azano as well in that little chasing group, just a fraction behind. But it's the Moroccan who leads the way here.
Looking comfy on the downhill too. Yeah, he's really striding it out, isn't he? Just like ask the questions of the others. Like, are you gonna? They have to work now to get back to him, don't they?
Ran 15:07 in Hyundai, so we know he's relatively sharp. I don't think he's going to completely come back to the field, if at all. We'll see. But it makes for a much more interesting race when someone you don't expect decides to go for home early.
He's looking really comfortable, isn't he?
He's
we
looking,
saw Luke Bates, who was in second position, but he's dropped back again now. So, yeah, not actually able to make that, close that gap down. We see one of the Italians now trying to close it down. I mean, he looks great, like really comfortable and in control, doesn't he? I think a lot of the pack of men are thinking, who is this guy? How is he still in front of us? Why haven't we caught him yet? Faldon, I think, is now just moving to the front of that group. So some really strong runners in that chasing group, but they just don't seem to be able to make any inroads. A few people have kind of attempted, but not managed to kind of close down the gap.
I'm wondering if he was actually an athlete, because he's 27, and as you say, it's only his 5th race.
Yeah, just maybe he's come from that running background, and is yeah, just like we saw with Beth Potter earlier, isn't it? Maybe come into it a little bit later. But yeah, this is a much improved performance from last weekend. I'll say with that bike coming together, it's put him in a better position today, hasn't it? It maybe wasn't one of the top guys out of the water, but close enough to stay in contention. Yeah, Faldon, Freya, Sazilla, all doing everything they can to try and pull that gap closer to them. Got Baxter from Spain in there as well.
Well, it's been a while since Gabor Faldon got on a World Cup podium. It's good to see him racing here. Isano not going to win today, I don't think. Looks like he's just labouring a little bit. Berlon just going through. Stapley, who was the one giving all the orders on the bike in the early stages, but that half dozen couldn't break away from the rest.
Yeah, looking fantastic, isn't he? Like really, really kind of just, no one's got, when I saw him go out that hard, I was like, well, he's going to get caught really quickly, but just, yeah, it seems to be extending at this point. Yeah, I reckon this gap's growing a bit.
Well, I wonder where this run was last week.
Yeah, definitely not. And like that, if he has come from that maybe a running background, then it sometimes just does take a while to get that that out. But yeah, we don't know too much about him. These athletes here, Sazilla now is the one who's taking up the chase, trying to bridge that gap. A few of them have all gone to the front and tried to pull it in, but not quite managed it.
Just coming out to lap one of the Korean athletes.
I see a lot of these Korean athletes. It's just with the World Cup being in Korea, they're going to have more starts and have more opportunities to race. So it's just a great learning for them. Hopefully these races, seeing the top athletes kind of fly past you at this point, hopefully not demoralising and more of a motivating factor to get to that level. At this point, it doesn't look like he's going to get caught, does it?
You'd say not at the moment.
Yeah, I reckon he's extended that lead. It was 5 seconds, I think, at the first run check. So 5 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but it's quite a lot of distance to make up, isn't it?
You can see back to Sazilla, who's currently in the silver medal position, 5-time Italian champion. It's actually only his 6th World Cup race. Got a best of 18th at Karlovy Vary, so he's going to beat that.
Yeah, he's right up there today.
Bate starting to suffer in behind as Crociani goes through.
Bate looking at his watch there, checking his splits maybe. Some athletes like to have the data, and I suppose to compare, especially afterwards, to compare like how you actually did the race. But some athletes just don't want to know at this point. Just head down and go for it. working hard up that hill there, really trying to keep the momentum going. So it's really important to work up the hill, but then once you get to the top, not relax too much, try and work over the top of the hill and then use that momentum into the downhill. And he looked really good, actually, the first time down the hill, very relaxed. Yeah, I don't think they're catching now.
See what's going on behind. So Crociani has just sneaked past Sarzilla.
I say Crociani was 4th, wasn't he, last weekend? So we'll love to make the podium here today.
Faldon's right up there in that little chasing group of 4 or 5 as well, which is good to see. Well, this is a bold front-running bid, and at the moment, it looks like it's going to pay off for Jawed Abdelmoula.
I don't think he's looked back yet either, has he? I mean, he would have seen the athletes on the turn there. He knows he's got a decent-sized gap. But he's stayed relaxed through the whole run, hasn't he?
27 years of age. What a big moment this is going to be. It's only his 5th race. Don't imagine when he got up this morning and thought, you know what, I reckon I'm going to win my first World Cup race today.
No, not judging by last weekend, but I think that's what we said, isn't it? The turnaround between the races can be such a difference, and we saw that look back there.
I'd have to check, but I can't believe a Moroccan has ever won a World Cup race.
No, I don't think so.
So this could be a little bit of history going on here for the 27-year-old. Home broadcaster just showing some of the Koreans. I really hope he speaks some English, because I just want to hear Courtney ask him about what the plan was. Well, you saw the smile. He's getting great support as he comes onto the blue carpet, and this is going to be one of the shot World Cup wins ever, because the Moroccan Jawed Abdelmoula wins, and wins brilliantly in 51.43.
Crociani second.
Crociani in second place.
I think it's Baxter, the Spanish Baxter Cabrera in 3rd.
Yeah, that's a good result for Sergio Baxter Carrera.
It is, yeah, another young athlete, both Crociani and Baxter Cabrera, both only 20 years old.
So that is Baxter Carrera's first World Cup medal. He got 4th in Carlo Vivari.
And I think he's 4th in Europeans as well, wasn't he? Yeah, so yeah, on a really good run there. So yeah, nice to break that 4th, and Crociani to move up from his 4th last weekend to 2nd.
Good performance from the likes of Faldon and Luke Bate as well.
Yeah, strong top 10. I think that, I mean, that run, they were going to run, there's no tactics there, was it? Everyone was just trying to run flat out to catch the leader, who went just at such an early stage.
They never really landed a glove on him, did they?
No.
Once he decided to make the move for home, as a couple more finishers come in.
Yeah, with a 9-second gap over the rest of the field. Massively impressive. 2 of the Koreans there, just heading out. I think they're heading out on their 2nd lap.
Pretty quick time, actually, 51.43.
Yeah, that is fast. So is that quite a bit faster than the women's?
The
maybe
women were
more
50, 58 plus, yeah.
I think that larger pack on the men's and the nature of the the attacking, kind of constantly trying to chase down the breaks has definitely contributed to a really fast race.
Some of the Koreans finished now. As I say, I hope Mr. Abdelmoula can speak some English, because it'll be a fascinating interview. If he doesn't, he might be able to put up some kind of a translator, maybe.
Quite inexperienced at this. This level of racing, and to come out there with such an impressive fashion, with an amazing run.
Well, just his 5th race, and I think he was disqualified in one of the previous 4, wasn't he?
So his 10k PB is 28.38 and 5k PB is 13.53.
Wow.
So
wow.
that's all Instagram.
That's rapid.
Getting my information here. But yeah, is down in his profile as an athlete, a triathlete and a duathlete. So maybe just come from that bit more of a duathlon background as well. But that's important to get that swim up to be competitive in the triathlons.
Well, according to the stats here, his first triathlon was 6 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, imagine he's been racing kind of outside of the World Triathlon Series. Maybe the French Grand Prix Series have a really strong, different divisions to race in. They also have a duathlon league. So he's probably been racing for a number of years, but maybe just stepped up onto the kind of the international stage of racing recently.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's still a phenomenal result.
I think it's good to see, because quite often we see them come through juniors to under 23s to seniors. Is quite an obvious progression and see the results. So it's quite nice to see some of the men come in that haven't had that experience a bit younger, and also as the other athletes know that there is opportunity. You don't have to come in and do all those levels, or you don't have to be a really good junior under 23 to do well as a senior.
Well, we are going to try and get a word, obviously, with all 3 medalists. I'm not sure about Sergio Baxter Carrera's English. I think Crociani speaks a bit of English. I'm sure I've heard him speak before. Abdelmoula, I have no idea. It does work really well for triathlon, this area, doesn't it, with the hills, and just perfect.
Yeah, it does. It gives a really nice kind of interesting course, doesn't it? Just quite often if we have a swim, it's, ocean, it's kind of because that flat up and down the front, but it's great that they have the hills here to make it a bit more challenging. And the run course is really interesting. Quite nice for a lot of these athletes. Their season is probably done today, so maybe a bit of time now to relax and enjoy a bit of off-season before kind of getting back into it. Because for a lot of these athletes, they'll have their sights set on Paris 2024 already and starting to collect the points.
Well, hopefully we'll be getting a word with the 3 medalists, as I mentioned, and then, of course, we will have both presentations, the women's and the men's. one after the other at the end.
Still a few of the last athletes finishing, isn't there? I think I saw them heading out for their last lap as some of the athletes are finishing. Just, again, as we said, that big sort of difference in the standard at this level of racing. I think the athletes, I think they're all kind of in one hotel together, and that hotel is kind of their sort of voice, so it's bubbled in there. So I think there's probably quite a nice atmosphere amongst all the athletes for they've been travelling together for these two races. And yeah, it's definitely been probably more of a bonding experience in COVID times, the racing, than previously.
I'm here with Jawad, our gold medalist. Only your 5th World Triathlon race and a huge improvement on last weekend. Tell me, how happy are you with today's performance?
I was very happy today because last week I was very bad. I was on the 3rd pack on the bike. I ran good, but it's not enough. That's why today I was very happy to was on the 1st pack and ran very good. I was so sorry, my English is very bad, but I was just very happy today to win this race World Cup because the last race I was also very bad.
Just take us through that run. I mean, over 20 men came off the bike together and then you comfortably took out in lead. Were you confident that you could hold on to the lead the entire 5 kilometres?
Oh no, I was good today on form, but I don't know if I can win today. So it's wonderful for me to win today. Yes.
And Jawad, finally, racing in Korea, have you loved it?
Oh yes, I love it. The organization is very good. Just enjoy the time on Korea. I was very happy. Thank you.
Gold medal today. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
I think it's great to see when athletes from countries we're not used to seeing on podiums get on a podium. I really, it's a global sport, and it can only do good for triathlon when a country like Morocco suddenly finds itself with a medalist in a World Cup, a gold medalist.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting and hopefully inspires like other Moroccan triathletes as well, isn't it? Like seeing that an athlete from your country is able to do that is, I think, a big inspiration and motivating factor.
Silver medal here in Tongyeong, 4th last weekend. Tell me, how happy are you with today's performance?
Well, I'm very happy about these Korean races for last week and second today. I'm very happy today because I'm run very fast. I stay up in the hill and do a big progression to so one, but the other athletes record me, but I have a big sprint, so I finished second today.
Just take us through that run. There was 10 men out of transition together. At what point did you know you could surge and go ahead?
Yeah. I did a good T2 and I exit first. I know it's a big point to do a big run.
And finally, racing in Korea here, Tongyeong is an iconic race. How did you enjoy training and racing here this week?
Yeah, I like this place. It's a good training area. Up and hill, I love Tongyeong.
Silver medal today, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, Crociani, I think, thoroughly deserved that silver. And it's going to be a first World Cup medal also for Sergio Baxter Carrera when we get the chance to have a chat with him, which shouldn't be too long in coming.
All right, I'm here with our bronze medalist today. Just take us through how the race setup was for you.
Well, I was coming into this race with a few doubts, especially after last weekend in Hyundai. I didn't have my best race there, so I was looking forward to finishing my season with a strong race. And yeah, in the swim, I felt a bit rough. It's been a while since I swim with neoprene, with a wetsuit. But we managed to pull it together on the bike, join all the groups together. And then I knew I had chances on the run. A key to a podium is a good transition, and I managed to do that. And then solid run just placed me in third. I had a good sprint with another Italian, and yeah, it was an overall really good race.
Just go back to the bike course. You know, there was 20 of you working so hard together and a lot of power being put out. So just take us through, what was the communication going on out there?
I'm not sure if we were very organised, since we're the first group and we've got no threats chasing us. Then it's hard to be organised. But it was very stressful in the bike group. Everyone was wanting to be at the front for the climb, for the turns. So there was quite a few bumps and contact. But yeah, I managed to stay up front, stay out of trouble, and yeah, it was a good bike course, especially with a hill. I like that.
And finally, a bronze medal here as we approach a new Olympic cycle. How much confidence does that give you?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm over the moon with a podium. It's my first podium in the World Cup. My last race of the season as well, so that's given me confidence going into next season and into the new Olympic cycle.
Bronze medal here today at Tongyeong. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well, I think we know where the Baxter came from now.
Yeah.
But that was an excellent run from Sergio Baxter Carrera.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at his results this lately, he's had some really strong performances with like fourth in Karlovy Valencia, some like top tens in points races earlier this year. So yeah, it probably finishes off the year really well to come through and actually kind of get onto the podium.
Well, talking of podiums, I think they're going to sort out the women's podium first, hopefully fairly shortly. And then we will have the men's podium. While we wait for the ceremony, I think it's probably, well, it's not quite the end of the season, but I can ask you anyway, because we might have a bit of time. Highlights of the season so far?
I don't know, it feels like a long time ago since Yokohama, doesn't it, in May?
I think Flora winning the gold in Tokyo was probably...
Yeah, and I think what I've loved as well was Christian Blumenfeld's start to the year, wasn't it? When he was just racing every race and then winning, then not winning. I was like, what is he doing? Has he done this? And then obviously comes to Tokyo and just kind of does what he went there to do and achieve that gold. And then obviously Flora and Christian both then becoming world champion as well. So I think that kind of... Taylor Knibb coming through.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just, I think, such a statement for the next few years and what to expect in Paris. Lucy Charles-Barkley coming into the short course and changing that dynamic with her super fast swim. It's going to be, that's more excitement for next year.
And next week.
And next week, yeah. It's been a really kind of, it feels like a long time since those first races. But I've really enjoyed the World Cup races as well and seeing these younger athletes. Like, this is a really, I know the gold medal winner is a little bit older, but seeing the two young athletes in second and third, I think this gives us a sight of what we might be seeing over the next few years in that build up to Paris and who's coming through. So I quite like to see that. And I can't call a British women's team or an Italian men's at this point for the next few years.
No.
There's some real strength and depth in a lot of the teams at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
French men.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it was Duffy, just because you know, she was so dominant a few years ago, and then she picked up the injury, and the Olympics got delayed, and you thought, oh, maybe she's not going to, because you just wanted her to go there fit and at her best, and then see. And if someone was better, then someone was better. But
I think that's what everyone wanted. You know, Flora Duffy fit is what we wanted to see in Tokyo, and it's what we've got. And I think what's been so lovely since the Games is just what it means to Bermuda, and like the celebrations. I think it's just
still going on. I think.
Yeah, I mean, like Flora Duffy Day in Bermuda, how like amazing is that? And you know, for the sport of triathlon to actually have that kind of impact. Mixed team relay, I think, was one of the standout events of the whole Games, and a lot of people said was one of their favourites.
Yes,
so it's been such an exciting year for triathlon. Such an exciting year off the back of such a tough year.
Yeah, I mean, when we start listing things that we enjoyed in 2021, surprised there are so many races to pick from, because at one stage just didn't know there were going to be many at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's unusual, isn't it, to not really have anything going on until May. We were kind of all really sort of not sure what was going to happen, even if the Olympics were going to go ahead at that point. So for everything to kind of continue and happen and have races up until this point has been fantastic. And I'm actually really excited for the juniors to get back to their World Championships next year. I think it's a really big thing for the juniors to have that World Championships, and I know some of them will have missed out on kind of that last year as a junior, as the year you always want to go there and prove yourself, and some of them would have missed out on that. So I'm so glad it's not going to be another year of missing out, and that they're able to get out there and race. Although that's a really hard race to call who's going to win. No idea.
Yeah, well, that's why we come, because we don't know. If we knew, it'd be boring, wouldn't it? It looks like they're maybe starting to get something happening down by the where the podium is, and obviously as soon as that ceremony starts, we'll bring it to you. I think one of the other things that has kind of been caused by the pandemic is that some of the fields we saw in World Cup races earlier in the season, quite astonishing.
Yeah, we saw some strong fields, didn't we? With just athletes wanting to get out there and race, wasn't it? Like we saw Vicky Holland race in Lisbon, and we wouldn't always get to see those athletes race at that level. I think it's been really probably good for the younger athletes as well, or the World Cup athletes, to get exposed to those top class athletes, see how they operate, see how they race.
Well, still waiting, obviously, for the medal ceremonies to begin.
Always a lot of people involved. Takes a bit of organisation, lots of dignitaries, flowers, medals, champagne. So, yeah, I'm sure they're all getting organised. Although no champagne this year, I don't think.
No, maybe not. We had beer in glasses in Hamburg, didn't we?
It wouldn't be Hamburg without beer in glasses, would it?
That's true. That's true. First year of the Super Sprint in Montreal. That was another interesting weekend of action, wasn't it? And of course, Flora went and won that as well.
Yeah, really interesting. I'd like to see how that develops in the series.
So here is the podium, and Sandra Dode collecting bronze for her third place finish. Really good run from Dode, who won the event here 2 years ago, the last time it was held.
다음은 2위입니다. 은메달 영국의 케이트 로.
Kate Woff takes silver, a second successive silver.
Representing Great Britain, Kate Woff. 다음은 2위입니다. 금메달 영국의 베스 포터.
So Beth Potter, 2 golds in the space of a week, and she's going to be testing herself further in Abu Dhabi in 7 days' time.
베스 포터. 이 2위, 3위 선수들 포토 타임이 있겠습니다. 특히 1위와 2위 베스포터와 케이트 워 선수는 지난 해운대 대회에서도 1위와 2위를 같이 차지했던 선수들입니다. 축하드리겠습니다. 자, 이제 꽃게 하겠습니다. 저 계속해서 wait. 네. Please rise for the playing of the national anthem of Great Britain.
Well, they are going to play the anthem, even though they stepped off the podium, so stand by for God Save the
Oh,
Queen.
they've come back.
There they are.
That's good.
금메달 베스포터, 영국 국가가 연주됐습니다. 다시 한번 축하드리고요. 특히 정말 이 베스포터 그리고 케이트 워 그리고 3위 산드라 도네트 선수 상당히 수고 많으셨고요. 자, 천천히 퇴장하도록 하겠습니다. 자, 워낙 치열한 접전도 있었습니다만 오늘 두 명의 선수들이 독주를 했었던 여자 엘리트 경기였습니다.
So, no doubt they're going to switch now to doing the podium for the men. I don't think I have ever seen a Moroccan flag at a medal ceremony for triathlon, but that's about to change.
약간은 저희 선수들에게 물어보니까 해운과는 다른 그런 느낌을 받았다고 하는데요. 훨씬 더 선수들에게 좋은 느낌으로 다가온 이번 통영 대회. 이제 여자 그리고 남자 엘리트 시상식이 모두 이제 남자 시상식을 끝으로 이제 막을 내릴 텐데요. 이제 잠시 후에 남자 시상식이 거행되겠습니다. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the medal ceremony of the elite men race of the 2021 World Triathlon Cup Tongyeong. 시상역은 이명기 대한천인 삼종섭 대장님께서 수고해 주시겠습니다.
Here they come.
먼저 3위입니다. 스페인의 세르지오 백스터 카브레라. In third place.
So first ever World Cup medal for Sergio Baxter Carrera.
Spain, Sergio Baxter Cabrera. 다음은 2위 은메달입니다. 이탈리아의 알레시오 굴사니.
So Alessio Cruciani takes the silver, and when he did his interview with Courtney, understandably, pretty pleased about it. The way that he exacted his race plan. But big surprise win for the 27-year-old Moroccan, Jawad Abdelmoula. He used to be a swimmer, then became a runner, and then decided that he'd have a go at triathlon. I'm not sure he expected it to pay off quite so handsomely, quite so soon.
similar trajectory to Beth Potter, really. Both of them sort of
Yeah.
mirrored there. But, such an impressive run today.
1위, 2위, 3위 선수를 함께 모여서 사진을 찍겠습니다. 아, 정말 대단하죠. 특히 1위를 한 자와드 압데몰라 선수는 달리기에서 정말 엄청난 스피드를 보여줬습니다.
Any pose. Take any pose. Thank you.
Wonder where we'll next see
자, 이제
Abdelmoula racing.
국가 연주가 있겠습니다.
Yeah, but he had a pretty low world ranking before this, but you know, a World Cup win really just boosts you up there. That'll get him starts into the bigger races for next year.
Here's the Ceremonies, which is the national anthem of Morocco.
박수 부탁드리겠습니다. 자, 이제는 메달리스트와 함께 포토 타임을 갖는 시간을
So a really memorable race for Abdelmoula. I think they're getting the women on the podium back as well for a few more pictures. And Tongyeong's already on the calendar for a World Cup race next year. So we'll all be back here again in 12 months' time.
남자 엘리트 1, 2, 3위 그리고 여자 엘리트 1, 2, 3위 선수들과 함께하는 포토 타임이었습니다. 자, 선수들 정말 강력한
So 6 medalists from 5 different countries,
감사합니다. 자, 이상으로
which is good to spread the medals around. And that pretty much concludes our coverage for this year from Tongyeong. But next week's a massive weekend. Join us again then. Bye for now.